The auditorium lights dimmed as 300 cadets from across the galaxy settled into their seats. Minho sat in the middle row, his dark eyes scanning the massive holographic display that flickered to life above the stage. Beside him, Jiwan was already tapping notes into her datapad, while Yuna leaned back with her arms crossed, looking slightly bored. "Another safety briefing," Yuna whispered. "How many does that make this week?" "5, Jiwan replied without looking up. "But this one is about the survival exercise. Might actually be useful." Minho smiled but said nothing. He watched as Instructor Velthari climbed onto the stage. The insectoid commander stood nearly 3 meters tall, her chitinous armor gleaming under the lights. Her forearms gestured sharply as she began to speak, her voice amplified through the hall's speakers. "Cadets, your final exercise begins in 2 weeks. You will be assigned to teams and deployed to various worlds across this sector. Your mission is simple. Survive for 10 days using only basic equipment. Rescue will come only at the designated extraction point." The holographic display shifted, showing images of different planets. Some looked pleasant, with blue skies and green forests. Others appeared more hostile, with red deserts or ice-covered surfaces. The cadets murmured among themselves, discussing which planets they hoped to avoid. Then the display changed again. A planet appeared marked with angry red symbols and warning signs. The murmuring stopped. Complete silence filled the auditorium. "This," Velthari said, her voice dropping lower, "is a Class 12 death world. Catalog designation HD 3427. I show you this not as a possible assignment but as a warning. No cadet under any circumstances is permitted to approach such a world." Minho leaned forward, studying the planet carefully. The data scrolling beside it showed extreme gravity, unpredictable weather, dangerous fauna, and toxic plant life. It looked fascinating. Velthari continued. "Class 12 death worlds represent the highest tier of planetary danger. The gravity alone would crush most species. The atmosphere contains irregular oxygen levels that would suffocate you within hours. The native predators are larger, faster, and more aggressive than anything you have encountered. Even the plants are weaponized by evolution." A cadet from the Crystalline Collective raised one shimmering appendage. "Instructor, has anyone ever survived on such a world?" "No," Velthari said flatly. "Because no one has been foolish enough to try. These worlds are marked as forbidden zones. They exist only as reminders of how hostile the universe can be." Jiwan nudged Minho with her elbow. He glanced at her and saw she was trying not to laugh. Yuna had covered her mouth with one hand, her shoulders shaking slightly. "What?" whispered Rixal, the crystalline cadet sitting in front of them. His translucent body refracted the light into rainbow patterns. "Nothing," Minho said quietly. "It just reminds us of something." "Of what?" "Home." Rixal's surface rippled with confusion, but before he could ask more questions, Velthari dismissed the assembly. The cadets filed out of the auditorium, heading toward the assignment terminals where they would receive their team placements and destination planets. Minho joined the queue at Terminal 7, with Jiwan and Yuna close behind. Around them, cadets from dozens of species chatted nervously about the upcoming exercise. A massive aquatic cadet named Thum floated past in his mobility tank, his translator announcing his hopes for a water-rich planet. When Minho reached the terminal, he placed his hand on the scanner. The screen flickered, processing his biometric data. Then words appeared. Team 7, Leader, Cadet Minho. Below that, a list of team members appeared. Jiwan and Yuna were both assigned to his team, along with Rixal, Thum, and 3 other non-human cadets. Not a bad group, Minho thought. He had trained with most of them before. Then the destination loaded. The screen flashed red. Warning symbols appeared. The terminal began to beep loudly. Destination, HD 3427, classification, Class 12, Death World error. Unauthorized assignment, contact Academy Command immediately. Minho stared at the screen. Behind him, Jiwan leaned over his shoulder and read the same message. "Oh," she said. "That's interesting." Within minutes, Minho and his entire team were summoned to Academy Command. They stood in a semicircle before Commander Salth, an elderly reptilian officer with scales that had faded to pale gray. He looked down at his desk display with obvious frustration. "This is a computer error," Salth said. "The assignment algorithm experienced a malfunction. You will be reassigned immediately." "With respect, Commander," Minho said carefully. "What kind of malfunction?" Salth's eyes narrowed. The kind that assigns cadets to a planet that could kill them in minutes. The kind that should be impossible given our safety protocols. But the assignment was made, Jiwan pointed out. Doesn't Academy regulations state that once an assignment is logged, it can only be changed by unanimous team vote or direct threat to the Academy itself? Salth's scales darkened with annoyance. Cadet, I'm trying to save your lives. We appreciate that, sir, Minho said, but we would like to proceed with the assignment as given. The other human cadets nodded. The alien members of Team 7 looked at Minho as if he had lost his mind. Rixal's surface flickered with patterns that his people used to express extreme anxiety. Thum's water tank bubbled violently. You cannot be serious, Salth said. HD 3427 will kill you. Maybe, Yuna said with a shrug. But the training is supposed to be challenging, right? Besides, we have experience with difficult environments. Difficult? Salth stood up. His full height impressive even for his species. That planet has gravity that will make every step feel like you are carrying twice your body weight. The temperature swings 40 degrees in a single day. The predators hunt in packs and have been observed using coordinated tactics. The plants produce toxins that can melt through standard environmental suits. This is not difficult. This is suicide. Minho exchanged glances with the other humans. Finally, he looked back at Salth. Commander, on our homeworld we call places like that Tuesday. Your homeworld? Salth pulled up Earth's file on his display. His eyes widened as he read. Your planet is classified as a Class 11 death world. How is this possible? How does your species have a civilization? We got good at adapting, Jiwan said simply. Salth sat back down slowly. He looked at the human cadets with something that might have been respect or might have been disbelief. Then he looked at the alien members of Team 7. And what do the rest of you say? Do you agree to this insanity? Rixal's surface was still showing anxiety patterns, but he spoke clearly through his translator. If the humans believe it is possible, then I will trust their judgment. Thum's translator crackled. I have trained beside them for 6 months. They do not take unnecessary risks. If they are willing to go, then so am I. The other alien cadets agreed, though none of them looked happy about it. Salth was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed, a sound like steam escaping from a vent. Very well. Against my better judgment, I am authorizing this assignment. However, I am also authorizing emergency extraction protocols. At the first sign of critical danger, you will be pulled from the surface immediately. Is that understood? Yes, Commander, Minho said. Dismissed. And cadets? Salth looked at each of them in turn. Good luck. You will need it. As Team 7 left the command office, Rixal moved close to Minho. I must ask, do humans truly not fear death? Minho considered the question. We fear it. But we fear not living even more. Our world taught us that survival is not about avoiding danger. It is about learning how to dance with it. That is a very human philosophy, Rixal said. Maybe, Minho replied. But it has kept us alive for a long time. 2 weeks later, Team 7 boarded their transport ship. As the vessel lifted away from the Academy station and turned toward the distant star system containing HD 3427, Minho looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there was a planet that the entire galaxy considered unsurvivable, a world so hostile that even showing it to cadets was meant as a warning. Minho smiled. It was going to be just like home. The transport shook violently as it entered the upper atmosphere of HD 3427. Lightning struck the hull in rapid succession, each impact making the entire ship ring like a bell. Alarms blared from every panel. The pilot, a 4-armed Kashari veteran, fought with the controls while swearing in 3 languages. In the passenger compartment, the alien cadets were strapped tightly into their crash seats. Rixal had retracted into a protective crystalline shell. Thum's water tank was secured with triple magnetic locks, but the water inside still sloshed dangerously with each impact. The other alien cadets gripped their restraints with whatever appendages they possessed, their faces or surface patterns showing clear terror. The humans sat calmly in their seats. Minho was studying a datapad showing topographical maps of their landing zone. Jiwan had her medical kit open, performing a final inventory check. Yuna was humming a song quietly to herself, something upbeat and cheerful that seemed completely out of place given the circumstances. Another lightning strike hit so close that the lights flickered. One of the alien cadets made a sound that the translator could not interpret but clearly meant distress. First time flying through a storm? Jiwan asked the cadet kindly. This is not a storm, the cadet replied, his translator making his voice shake. This is atmospheric warfare, Yuna laughed. You should see monsoon season in Southeast Asia. This is pretty mild, actually. The pilot's voice came through the intercom. 60 seconds to landing. The computer cannot find a safe touchdown point. The whole area is electrically active. Put us down anywhere flat, Minho called back. We will make it work. Anywhere flat might be in the middle of a predator hunting ground. Then we will deal with predators. Just get us on the ground in one piece. The pilot muttered something that the translator mercifully did not pick up, then angled the ship toward a clearing between massive trees. The transport dropped fast, retro thrusters screaming. The impact was hard enough to rattle teeth. Metal groaned. Then everything went still except for the sound of rain hammering against the hull. Welcome to paradise, the pilot said dryly. Try not to die. The rear hatch opened with a hiss of pressurizing air. The smell hit them first. Rich, wet earth mixed with something sharp and organic. The smell of a world absolutely teeming with life. Then came the heat and humidity, like walking into a wall of warm water. Minho was first down the ramp. His boots sank slightly into soft mud. Rain fell in heavy sheets warm against his skin. He took a deep breath and immediately started coughing. The oxygen levels were fluctuating, making the air feel thick. Jiwan and Yuna followed, moving quickly to start unloading equipment. The alien cadets came down more slowly, and Minho immediately saw they were in trouble. Rixal took one step and nearly collapsed. The gravity here was only slightly higher than standard, but his crystalline structure was not built for it. Tiny stress fractures appeared across his surface. Thume's environmental suit was already showing warning lights. The humidity was too high, threatening to flood his breathing apparatus. He would need constant maintenance just to keep functioning. The other alien cadets were struggling too, moving like they were walking through deep water. Each step took visible effort. Set up the base camp here, Minho ordered. Humans take point on heavy work. Everyone else focus on getting your equipment operational. For the next 2 hours, Team 7 worked to establish their camp. The humans moved efficiently despite the conditions. Yuna assembled the shield generator using parts from the transport and materials from their equipment packs. Jiwan set up the medical station and began treating minor injuries and strain that the alien cadets had already suffered. Minho scouted the perimeter, marking safe zones and potential hazards. The rain finally stopped as the sun set. The temperature immediately began to drop. Within 20 minutes, it went from 40 degrees to 15. The alien cadets, already exhausted, started shivering despite their environmental suits. The temperature should not change this fast, Rixal said, his voice vibrating with stress. This is meteorologically impossible. Welcome to weather, Yuna said. She was starting a fire using dry material she had somehow found despite the recent rain. This is pretty normal for high humidity environments with rapid air pressure changes. Normal? Thume's translator made the word sound like an accusation. Your species considers this normal? Parts of Earth do this every day, Jiwan said. She was distributing thermal blankets to the alien cadets. You get used to it. As darkness fell completely, the jungle came alive with sounds. Howls, screeches, clicking noises, and things that sounded almost like speech echoed from the trees. Something large moved through the undergrowth nearby, breaking branches. The shield generator hummed to life, creating a shimmering barrier around the camp. The alien cadets huddled together inside the barrier, weapons ready. Every sound made them jump. Every shadow could be a predator. Minho picked up a small cooking pot and a packet of coffee grounds from his personal pack. He walked to the edge of the shield barrier, then stepped through it. Cadet Minho. Rixal's voice cracked with panic. Return immediately. You will be killed! I am just making coffee, Minho called back. He set up a small cooking stand outside the barrier and started heating water. The night shift is going to be long. Might as well stay alert. There are predators out there, another alien cadet said urgently. Yes, there are. Minho stirred the coffee grounds into the hot water. But they are curious about us right now, not hungry. Once they smell the coffee and the fire, the smaller ones will stay away. They do not like strong scents they cannot identify. Jiwan joined him outside the barrier carrying 2 cups. Thought you might want company. They sat together on a fallen log, drinking coffee while the jungle screamed and howled around them. Inside the barrier, the alien cadets watched them like they were watching a suicide in progress. Then the real test came. 6 creatures emerged from the tree line. They moved on 4 legs but held their front claws up like hands ready to grab prey. Each one was the size of an earth bear, covered in dark scales with bioluminescent patterns along their spines. Their eyes reflected the firelight in a way that suggested advanced intelligence. The creatures formed a semicircle around Minho and Jiwon, clicking and hissing to each other. Inside the barrier, weapons powered up. The alien cadets were ready to fire. "Hold," Minho said quietly. "Nobody shoot." "They are pack hunters," Rixel said. "They are coordinating. This is an attack pattern." "No," Jiwon said, studying the creatures carefully. "This is a threat assessment. They are trying to decide if we are prey or competition." Minho stood up slowly. He picked up a burning stick from the fire and held it up. The creatures stepped back, their clicking growing faster. He waved the stick in a wide arc, making the flames dance. Then he threw the stick hard into the jungle to their left. The creatures turned as one, watching where the stick landed. A moment later, something much larger moved in that direction, something that made the scaled creatures scatter backward with alarmed hisses. "There is a bigger predator that way," Minho explained. "These pack hunters were checking if we would be easy prey. When I showed them we have fire, which means we have tools and intelligence, they started to reconsider. When I threw the fire toward the bigger predator's territory, I gave them a reason to leave. They will go find easier prey and they will avoid this area because they think we might be allied with the bigger predator." "You used one predator against another," Thum said slowly. "I redirected them," Minho corrected. "No point in fighting if you do not have to. Earth taught us that every animal is trying to survive with minimal energy cost. If you make yourself more trouble than you are worth, most predators will leave you alone." The scaled creatures melted back into the jungle. The larger presence in the trees also moved away, apparently satisfied that its territory was being respected. Yuna came out to join them, carrying her own cup of coffee. "Shift change in 2 hours. I recommend everyone get some sleep while they can. Tomorrow we start the real work." "Real work?" One of the alien cadets sounded faint. "What do you call this?" "This is just landing day," Yuna said cheerfully. "Tomorrow we start moving inland. The mission briefing said there is something worth investigating 40 kilometers from here. That is when things will get interesting." Inside the barrier, the alien cadets looked at each other. Rixal's surface was showing patterns of deep confusion, mixed with something that might have been respect. "I am beginning to understand," he said quietly, "why Earth is classified as a death world. It is not just that your planet is dangerous. It is that the danger made your species into something that other dangers should fear." Minho smiled. "We do not think of it that way. We just think of it as being really, really stubborn. Earth spent millions of years trying to kill our ancestors. We took it personally. The night stretched on. The humans took turns on watch, rotating every 2 hours. The alien cadets tried to sleep but mostly just rested nervously, jumping at every sound. By morning, when the sun rose through the canopy in shafts of golden light, Minho stood at the edge of camp looking at the jungle ahead. Somewhere out there, 40 kilometers away through terrain that could kill in 100 different ways, was their objective. Behind him, Team 7 prepared for the journey. The alien cadets still looked terrified, but they also looked determined. They had survived their first night on a Class 12 death world. If the humans could do this, maybe, just maybe, they could too. Day 4 on HD 3427 found Team 7 standing at the edge of a massive canyon. The gap stretched 200 meters across and went down so deep that the bottom disappeared into mist. Their target, an ancient structure detected by orbital scans, was on the other side. There was no way around. Rixel scanned the canyon with his geological sensors. The rock formations are unstable. Seismic activity is constant. Building a bridge would take days and it would likely collapse before we finished. Thum floated closer to the edge in his mobility tank. "I could attempt to fly across using my tank's thrusters, but the wind currents are too unpredictable. I would be thrown against the canyon walls." The other alien cadets offered suggestions, each one quickly dismissed as impossible or too dangerous. They had been making steady progress for 3 days, but this seemed like the end of the line. Minho and Jiwon walked along the canyon edge, studying both sides carefully. Yuna was already pulling rope and climbing equipment from her pack. "What are you doing?" one of the alien cadets asked. "Getting ready to cross. Yuna said simply. But we have not determined a safe method. Free climb, Ji-won said. She pointed to a section where the canyon wall was not quite vertical. Down about 30 meters across that rock shelf, then up the other side. We set anchor points and run a zip line. Everyone else crosses using the safety harness system. The alien cadet stared at her. You want to climb down an unstable cliff wall? Rixal said slowly. Cross a narrow ledge over a bottomless canyon. Climb up the other side. All without any guarantee that the rock will not crumble under you. Yes, Ji-won said. She was already tying rope around her waist. It is not that different from rock climbing back home. Minho, you want to go first or should I? I will go, Minho said. You have better knot skills. I will set the main anchor on the far side, you secure this side. He walked to the edge, tested a handhold, and swung himself over. The alien cadets rushed to the edge to watch as he descended, moving from grip to grip with practiced ease. When a rock crumbled under his hand, he smoothly shifted to a different hold without pausing. He is going to fall, one alien cadet whispered. No, he is not, Yuna said confidently. Minho has been climbing since he was 8. He did a summer at a climbing school in the Korean mountains. You send children to climb mountains? Thum sounded horrified. Well, yes, how else will they learn? Minho reached the shelf and moved across it carefully, testing each step before committing his weight. The shelf was barely wider than his boots in some places. Then he started climbing the far side. 20 minutes after he began, he pulled himself over the opposite edge and waved back to the team. Ji-won went next, moving even faster than Minho. She carried extra rope and anchoring equipment. Within an hour, they had set up a secure zip line system with safety harnesses. One by one, the alien cadets crossed, most of them with their eyes closed and prayers being offered to various deities. The canyon crossing had taken most of the morning, but Team 7 was back on track. By afternoon, they faced a new challenge. The sky darkened without warning. Thunder rumbled in the distance. Then rain began to fall, light at first but quickly becoming a downpour. The team took shelter under a rock overhang, but the rain showed no signs of stopping. Weather satellite shows a major storm system moving in, Yuna reported, checking her data pad. It is going to get worse before it gets better. She was right. Within minutes, the rain became a flood. Water poured down from higher ground, turning the jungle floor into a rushing river. The team's shelter was quickly becoming an island in a current that was rising fast. We need to move to higher ground, Rixal said urgently. But the water is already too deep for most of us to walk through. The alien cadets began calculating how long they could hold their positions, what supplies might be saved, whether they should call for emergency extraction. Minho was not calculating. He was watching the water, studying how it flowed. Everyone pack only critical supplies, he ordered. We move in 90 seconds. The water is still rising, Thum protested. I know. That is why we need to move now before it gets deeper. Minho led them at an angle, not straight uphill but diagonal to the current. He stopped frequently, testing the ground with a stick before allowing anyone to step forward. Twice he redirected them around areas that looked solid but were actually soft mud that would trap them. They reached high ground just as the water reached levels that would have swept them away. From their new position, they watched the flood surge through the area where they had been standing minutes before. Their original shelter was now underwater. How did you know where to go? Rixal asked. The water was everywhere. Water always follows the path of least resistance, Minho explained. If you watch how it flows, you can predict where it will go and where it has already been. The areas where water moves fastest are dangerous. The areas where it pools are too deep. But there are always channels where the ground is higher, where you can move if you are quick and careful. Ji-won was wringing water from her jacket. Monsoons are common in parts of Earth. Flash flooding happens every year. You learn to read water the same way you learn to read weather or animal tracks. It is just observation and pattern recognition. That night, as they set up a new camp on high ground, they encountered another problem. The rain had disturbed massive insect colonies in the trees. Thousands of flying insects descended on the camp, each one the size of a human thumb with a painful stinging bite. The alien cadets activated their environmental suit defenses, creating small energy fields that pushed the insects back. But the fields drained power quickly, and they could not maintain them all night. The humans took a different approach. Yuna collected leaves from several different plants and burned them over the fire. The smoke that rose was thick and had a sharp, bitter smell. The insects avoided it completely, creating a clear zone around the camp. Jiwan mixed mud with a paste made from crushed plants and showed the alien cadets how to coat their exposed equipment seams. The mud creates a physical barrier and the plant paste smells bad to insects. They will not try to get through it. Minho fashioned netting from spare material and plant fibers, creating additional barriers around sleeping areas. This is just mosquito netting scaled up. Same principle, bigger pests. By the time they were done, the camp was secure against the insect swarm without using any battery power at all. The alien cadets looked at the humans with expressions that ranged from amazement to something like fear. On Earth, Rixel said carefully, you have insects like this? Worse, Una said cheerfully. Fire ants, bullet ants, mosquitoes that carry diseases. Wasps that hunt in swarms. Hornets with stingers that can punch through clothing. We have been dealing with this since we were kids. Summer camp, outdoor school, family camping trips. You learn fast or you learn painfully. The next day brought the team's biggest challenge yet. They were following a game trail through dense jungle when the ground began to shake. Trees swayed, rocks tumbled down slopes. Then something massive moved through the forest ahead, knocking over trees like they were grass. The creature that emerged was the size of a building. It walked on 6 thick legs and had a head that was mostly mouth. Armor plates covered its body. When it saw the team, it roared, a sound so deep it vibrated in their chests. Combat positions, one of the alien cadets shouted. Weapons came up. Energy packs charged. The team prepared to fight. Wait, Minho said sharply. Hold your fire. That thing will kill us all, Thum said. Maybe, but look at how it is moving. The creature was walking strangely, favoring one of its legs. As it turned, they saw the problem. A massive parasitic growth covered its left rear leg, swollen and dark. The creature was in obvious pain, stumbling and bellowing in distress. It is not hunting us, Jiwan said, understanding immediately. It is suffering. Minho made a decision that anyone else would have called insane. He walked toward the creature, hands visible and empty, moving slowly. Mio, no! Several voices called out at once. He ignored them. Step by step, he approached the massive predator. It swung its head toward him, teeth as long as his arm clearly visible. It could have killed him in one bite. Instead, it made a low sound, almost like a whimper. Minho pointed at the parasitic growth. That must hurt, he said quietly. Want some help? The creature, of course, did not understand human language. But it understood tone. It understood the absence of threat. Slowly, painfully, it lowered itself to the ground. Jiwan ran to join him, medical kit in hand. We cannot remove that growth. It is too large. No, Minho agreed, but we can kill it. He pulled a thermal flare from his emergency pack, the type designed to burn hot enough to cauterize wounds. He activated it and pressed it directly against the parasitic growth. The creature roared in pain, but it did not move. It somehow understood that this short pain was necessary. The growth shriveled and blackened. After 30 seconds, it fell away from the creature's leg, leaving burned but clean tissue behind. The creature stood up slowly. It looked at Minho for a long moment. Then it turned and walked back into the jungle, moving much easier now without the parasite weighing it down. Team 7 stood in stunned silence. You just helped a predator that could have eaten you, Rixel finally said. Why? Minho thought about his answer. Because it was in pain. Pain makes any creature desperate and dangerous. An animal that is suffering will lash out at anything. But if you remove the pain, you remove the reason to fight. Besides, it was not evil or malicious. It was just trying to survive like all of us. That was an enormous risk, Thum said. Yes, Jiwan agreed. But that is what humans do. We take calculated risks based on understanding behavior. That creature was not stalking us. It was not hunting. It was in distress. The risk was high, but the assessment was sound. As they continued toward their objective, the alien cadets walked with new awareness. They had watched the humans handle each challenge not with superior strength or better technology, but with observation, adaptation, and sometimes compassion. Earth had not made humans the strongest or fastest species, but it had made them into something unique. Survivors who could read their environment like a book, who could turn problems into solutions, and who understood that sometimes the best way to avoid a fight was to help instead of harm. The ancient structure was only 10 kilometers away now. Whatever secrets it held, Team 7 would reach it together. The ancient structure rose from the mountainside like a monument to forgotten gods. It was massive, built from dark stone that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Carved symbols covered every surface, flowing in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. The entrance was a perfect triangle, 20 meters tall, leading into darkness. Team 7 stood at the base, looking up at architecture that predated every known civilization in the galaxy. The energy readings are off the scale, Yuna said, studying her scanner. This place is still active somehow, even after 100,000 years. Precursor technology, Rixal said quietly. It must be. No one else could build something that lasts this long. The precursors were a mystery that haunted galactic history. Every advanced species had found traces of them. Ancient facilities, abandoned outposts, technology so far beyond current understanding that it seemed like magic. But no one knew what they looked like, where they went, or why they disappeared. Minho activated his headlamp and stepped through the entrance. The others followed, their lights pushing back the darkness to reveal a vast chamber. The walls were covered in murals showing figures that could have been any species or no species anyone recognized. The ceiling was so high their lights could not reach it. In the center of the chamber stood a cylindrical device with a holographic interface that flickered to life as they approached. Yuna moved to the controls, her fingers dancing over symbols that should have been incomprehensible. But the interface seemed to adapt to her touch, translating itself into formats she could understand. "This is incredible," she whispered. "It is like the computer is learning how to communicate with me." Data began flowing across the holographic displays. Images, text, genetic diagrams. The history of this place revealed in fragments. Rixal helped translate the technical information. Thum recorded everything. The other alien cadets stood guard at the entrance. And the humans read the story that unfolded before them. HD 3427 was not just a death world, it was a testing ground. The precursors had built this place deliberately, choosing the most hostile planet they could find. They brought their children here, generation after generation, to live and struggle and adapt. They believed that only through hardship could a species achieve true greatness. They were creating something, Jiwan said, reading through medical data, a kind of forced evolution. The harsh environment killed the weak, but those who survived became stronger, smarter, more adaptable. "That is horrific," Rixal said. "They sacrificed their own people for an experiment." "Or they were preparing them," Minho said thoughtfully. "Look at this section. It talks about the galaxy being a dangerous place, about how only the strong can survive among the stars. Maybe they were not experimenting. Maybe they were training." Yuna pulled up genetic records. The computer analyzed them against galactic databases. Then it did something unexpected. It requested biological samples from Team 7. One by one, they provided DNA samples. The computer processed them, comparing their genetic codes against the precursor records stored in its memory. The results appeared. The alien cadets showed zero genetic compatibility with the precursor data. Their evolution had followed completely different paths. But the humans. 12% genetic markers in common, Yuna read, her voice shaking slightly. "That is statistically impossible unless we share a common ancestor." The chamber went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Somewhere in the distant past, humanity's evolutionary line had crossed paths with the precursors. Either humans were descended from them, or they had been part of the same grand experiment. "Earth is a Class 11 death world," Jiwan said slowly. "One of the most hostile planets in known space. The precursors chose death worlds deliberately for their training grounds. So Earth might have been one of their sites," Minho finished. "And humanity might be what they were trying to create. A species forged by a world that tries to kill them every single day." Before anyone could process this revelation, alarms began blaring throughout the temple. Red lights activated along the walls. The holographic interface changed, showing a new message in symbols that burned themselves into their vision. Legacy protocol activated. Only those forged by hardship may claim precursor inheritance. Final test begins now. The floor beneath their feet shifted. Sections of wall slid open, revealing weapons platforms. Drones emerged from hidden compartments, their targeting systems coming online. Environmental hazards activated. Gravity fluctuated wildly, going from crushing weight to near weightlessness in seconds. "It is a trap," Thum shouted. "No," Rixal said, his surface flashing with realization. "It is a test. The temple wants to see if we are worthy. The first drone opened fire. Energy bolts seared through the air. Team 7 scattered, diving for cover behind ancient pillars. Rixal's translator unit was hit in the first volley, shattering into pieces. Without it, he could not communicate. Thuum's mobility tank was struck next, cracking the containment field. Water began leaking out, and with it, his ability to survive in the atmosphere. The other alien cadets were pinned down, unable to fight back effectively. The temple's defenses were overwhelming, designed to test the absolute limits of anyone who entered. The humans moved into action. Minho coordinated their defense using hand signals and quick verbal commands. He had studied military tactics from Earth's history, from ancient warfare to modern combat. He applied those lessons now, using the terrain, creating choke points, focusing fire. Jiwan crawled across the chamber floor while energy bolts flew overhead. She reached Thuum first, using emergency sealant to patch his tank. Then she moved to Rixal, pulling him to safety behind a barrier. Without his translator, he could not speak, but his surface patterns showed gratitude. Yuna worked on hacking into the temple's systems, trying to shut down the defense grid. But the precursor computer was fighting back, adapting to her every move. It was a battle of wits between human ingenuity and ancient artificial intelligence. "I cannot stop it," Yuna shouted over the sound of weapons fire. "The system is too advanced." More drones emerged. The gravity increased to dangerous levels. The floor became electrified in sections, forcing the team to keep moving constantly. The alien cadets were failing. Even with help, they could not keep up with the escalating challenges. Rixal collapsed, his crystalline body fracturing under the stress. Thuum's tank was failing despite the repairs. The others were wounded, exhausted, beyond their limits. Minho made a decision. He looked at the holographic interface, at the data it was still displaying. Knowledge about the precursors, their technology, their history. Information that could change everything humanity knew about itself. Proof of their legacy, their inheritance. Then he looked at his team. At Rixal, unable to speak or move. At Thuum, drowning in his own tank. At the others who had trusted him to lead them. "Yuna," he called, "can you destroy the core?" She understood immediately what he was asking. "Yes, but if I do, all the data will be lost. Everything about the precursors, about human origins, all of it will be gone forever." "Do it." "Minho, this is the discovery of the millennium. This is proof of human heritage. This is everything we came to find. And our team is dying." He met her eyes across the chamber. "We did not survive Earth by leaving people behind. Blow the core, save the team." Jiwan was already nodding. She grabbed an explosive charge from her pack and tossed it to Yuna. Yuna caught it. For a moment she hesitated. Then she armed the charge and placed it against the central core of the precursor computer. "Everyone down," she shouted. The explosion was not large, but it was precise. The core shattered. The holographic displays died. The drones fell from the air. The environmental hazards shut down. The gravity returned to normal. The temple went dark and silent. Team 7 lay in the darkness, breathing hard. Slowly, emergency lights flickered on, dim but steady. Rixal dragged himself over to Minho. Without his translator, he could not speak, but he pressed one shimmering appendage against Minho's arm. The gesture was clear. "Thank you." Thuum's tank was stable now, with the environmental dangers gone. His voice came through damaged speakers. "You sacrificed everything. For us. Why?" Minho sat up slowly, checking himself for injuries. "Because that is what humans do. We survive together, or not at all. The knowledge was valuable, but you are our teammates, our friends. No amount of ancient history is worth your lives. But the proof of your heritage," one of the alien cadets said, "the connection to the precursors, you could have claimed it." "Maybe," Jiwan said, "but we do not need ancient aliens to tell us who we are. We know who we are. We are humans. We are from Earth. That is enough." Yuna was already working on getting Rixal's backup translator online. Besides, we got the important data downloaded before I blew the core. We might not have everything, but we have enough to prove this place existed. The rest the galaxy can speculate about. As the team prepared to leave the temple, Minho took one last look at the dark chamber. Somewhere in humanity's past, they might have shared blood with the precursors. Or maybe the genetic similarity was just coincidence, convergent evolution in response to similar environments. It did not matter. What mattered was that when the test came, when they had to choose between knowledge and compassion, between legacy and loyalty, they had chosen their team. That was the real human inheritance. Not genes or ancient ruins, but the choice to stand together, to protect each other, to value people over prizes. As Team 7 walked out of the temple and back into the deadly jungle of HD 3427, they walked as something more than a collection of cadets from different species. They walked as a family forged in fire, tested by a death world and found worthy, not because of their strength but because of their hearts. The humans moved into action. Minho coordinated their defense using hand signals and quick verbal commands. He had studied military tactics from Earth's history, from ancient warfare to modern combat. He applied those lessons now, using the terrain, creating choke points, focusing fire. Jiwan crawled across the chamber floor while energy bolts flew overhead. She reached Thum first using emergency sealant to patch his tank. Then she moved to Rixal, pulling him to safety behind a barrier. Without his translator, he could not speak, but his surface patterns showed gratitude. Yuna worked on hacking into the temple's systems, trying to shut down the defense grid. But the precursor computer was fighting back, adapting to her every move. It was a battle of wits between human ingenuity and ancient artificial intelligence. "I cannot stop it," Yuna shouted over the sound of weapons fire. "The system is too advanced." More drones emerged. The gravity increased to dangerous levels. The floor became electrified in sections, forcing the team to keep moving constantly. The alien cadets were failing. Even with help, they could not keep up with the escalating challenges. Rixal collapsed, his crystalline body fracturing under the stress. Thum's tank was failing despite the repairs. The others were wounded, exhausted, beyond their limits. Minho made a decision. He looked at the holographic interface, at the data it was still displaying. Knowledge about the precursors, their technology, their history. Information that could change everything humanity knew about itself. Proof of their legacy, their inheritance. Then he looked at his team. At Rixal, unable to speak or move. At Thum, drowning in his own tank. At the others who had trusted him to lead them. "Yuna," he called, "can you destroy the core?" She understood immediately what he was asking. "Yes, but if I do, all the data will be lost. Everything about the precursors, about human origins, all of it will be gone forever." "Do it." "Minho, this is the discovery of the millennium. This is proof of human heritage. This is everything we came to find. And our team is dying." He met her eyes across the chamber. "We did not survive Earth by leaving people behind. Blow the core, save the team." Jiwan was already nodding. She grabbed an explosive charge from her pack and tossed it to Yuna. Yuna caught it. For a moment she hesitated. Then she armed the charge and placed it against the central core of the precursor computer. "Everyone down," she shouted. The explosion was not large, but it was precise. The core shattered. The holographic displays died. The drones fell from the air. The environmental hazards shut down. The gravity returned to normal. The temple went dark and silent. Team 7 lay in the darkness, breathing hard. Slowly, emergency lights flickered on, dim but steady. Rixal dragged himself over to Minho. Without his translator, he could not speak, but he pressed one shimmering appendage against Minho's arm. The gesture was clear. "Thank you." Thum's tank was stable now with the environmental dangers gone. His voice came through damaged speakers. "You sacrificed everything. For us." "Why?" Minho sat up slowly, checking himself for injuries. "Because that is what humans do. We survive together, or not at all. The knowledge was valuable, but you are our teammates. our friends. No amount of ancient history is worth your lives. But the proof of your heritage, one of the alien cadets said, the connection to the precursors, you could have claimed it. Maybe, G1 said, but we do not need ancient aliens to tell us who we are. We know who we are. We are humans. We are from Earth. That is enough. Yuna was already working on getting Rixal's backup translator online. Besides, we got the important data downloaded before I blew the core. We might not have everything, but we have enough to prove this place existed. The rest the galaxy can speculate about. As the team prepared to leave the temple, Minho took one last look at the dark chamber. Somewhere in humanity's past, they might have shared blood with the precursors. Or maybe the genetic similarity was just coincidence, convergent evolution in response to similar environments. It did not matter. What mattered was that when the test came, when they had to choose between knowledge and compassion, between legacy and loyalty, they had chosen their team. That was the real human inheritance. Not genes or ancient ruins, but the choice to stand together, to protect each other, to value people over prizes. As Team 7 walked out of the temple and back into the deadly jungle of HD 3427, they walked as something more than a collection of cadets from different species. They walked as a family forged in fire, tested by a death world and found worthy, not because of their strength but because of their hearts. The transport ship broke through the atmosphere of the Academy station, carrying Team 7 home after 10 days on HD 3427. In the passenger compartment, the team sat quietly. They were exhausted, covered in the dirt and scratches of a world that had tried its best to kill them. But they were alive, all of them. The landing bay was crowded when they disembarked. News of their survival had spread through the Academy. Cadets from every species had gathered to see the team that had accomplished the impossible. They had survived a Class 12 death world. Commander Salth was waiting at the bottom of the ramp. His pale scales had somehow gotten even paler. When he saw all 9 team members walking off the ship on their own power, his mouth fell open. "You survived," he said, as if he could not quite believe his own eyes. "Yes, sir," Minho replied. "As ordered, all of you. Every single member, yes, sir. That was the mission, was it not? Survive as a team." Salth looked at the alien members of Team 7. At Rixal, his crystalline surface covered in hairline cracks but still functioning. At Thum, whose mobility tank had been repaired with what looked like plant fiber and mud. At the others who had gone to a death world and come back changed. "Report to the briefing room in 1 hour," Salth said finally. "Academy Command wants a full debriefing, especially about the Precursor Temple." The briefing room was packed. Every senior officer, every department head, and even some civilian scientists had crowded in to hear what Team 7 had found. Minho stood at the front, presenting their findings with calm professionalism. He showed the data they had recovered about the Precursor training program, the genetic analysis, the purpose of the Death World testing grounds. "So you are saying," interrupted a Kashari admiral, "that humans might be descended from the Precursors?" "We are saying there is a genetic connection," Minho corrected. "What that means exactly, we cannot determine from the limited data we recovered." "Why is the data limited?" asked a scientist. "The temple was intact. You should have been able to download everything." "The temple's defense system activated," G1 explained. "We had to destroy the core to survive. We salvaged what we could, but most of the archive was lost." There was silence, then uproar. "You destroyed irreplaceable precursor technology?" Someone shouted. "You threw away the discovery of the century?" Another voice called. Minho waited for the noise to die down. When it did not, he simply spoke over it. "We made a choice," he said clearly. "Knowledge or lives. We chose lives. I would make the same choice again." Commander Salth raised one clawed hand for silence. The decision was correct. Cadet Minho's first duty is to his team. The fact that all 9 members returned alive from a Class 12 death world is itself historic. The precursor data, while valuable, is secondary to that achievement. The outrage settled into grudging acceptance. The debriefing continued for 3 more hours as Team 7 described everything they had encountered. The alien cadets spoke about how the humans had taught them to read their environment, to adapt to challenges, to survive through intelligence rather than brute force. Rixal, his translator now fully repaired, gave testimony that stunned the room. "I believed death worlds were impossible to survive," he said. I believed the humans were foolish for trying. I was wrong. Death worlds are not impossible. They simply require a different way of thinking. The humans showed us that survival is not about avoiding danger. It is about understanding danger and working with it. Thum added his own observations. On my homeworld, we have 12 words for different types of safety. The humans taught me that safety is not the absence of danger. Safety is the knowledge of how to handle danger when it comes. This is a concept my species has never understood. The humans live it every day. The debriefing ended with a surprise announcement. Team 7, Commander Salth said, "You are being offered positions in the Galactic Rangers. This is an honor rarely given to first-year cadets. Your performance on HD 3427 has demonstrated abilities far beyond your training level." Minho exchanged glances with Jiwan and Yuna. The Galactic Rangers were elite. They handled the most dangerous missions, explored the most hostile territories, went where others could not or would not go. "We accept," Minho said. "On one condition." Salth's scales rippled with surprise. "You are negotiating?" "Yes, sir. We want our team to stay together, all 9 members. We go together or not at all." The alien members of Team 7 stood straighter, their various expressions showing shock and gratitude. Salth considered this. Then he looked at Rixal and the others. "Do you accept? The Galactic Rangers face constant danger. You have seen what that means now. Are you willing to continue?" Rixal's surface flashed with determination. "The humans saved my life multiple times on that world. They taught me that I am more capable than I believed. I would be honored to continue serving with them." The other alien cadets agreed. Thum's translator actually crackled with something that might have been laughter. "I have learned more in 10 days with the humans than in 2 years at the academy. I am not giving that up." "Very well," Salth said. "Team 7 will be transferred to the Rangers as a complete unit. Your first assignment will be sent to you within the week." As they left the briefing room, news of their acceptance into the Rangers was already spreading. The halls of the academy buzzed with whispers. The humans who survived a death world, the team that chose loyalty over legacy. But there was another conversation happening, one that Team 7 did not hear. In government chambers across the galaxy, officials were debating what the precursor connection meant. Some alien factions feared humanity. If humans really were precursor descendants, what did that mean for galactic politics? What if they claimed some kind of inheritance? Others sought alliance with Earth. Human adaptability was valuable. Their ability to survive in extreme conditions could be essential for expanding into new territories. A formal motion was introduced to reclassify Earth from its current status to Class 11 Death World. The designation would bring both prestige and scrutiny. It would mark humanity as remarkable but also as potentially dangerous. Earth's government was still considering the implications. Meanwhile, Team 7 received their first assignment as Rangers. They were to explore the Void Reaches, an uncharted region where several expeditions had vanished without a trace. The mission was classified as extremely dangerous. They gathered in the hangar bay where their new ship waited. It was a sleek vessel, state-of-the-art, equipped with the best technology the Rangers could provide. Yuna had requested it be named the Soul Star after Minho's home city. The request had been approved. As they prepared to board, Rixal approached Minho privately. "I must ask you something," the crystalline cadet said. "When you destroyed the precursor core, you gave up proof of your species' heritage. Do you regret that choice?" Minho thought about it. "No," he said finally. "We do not need ancient aliens to tell us who we are. Earth made us who we are. The struggle, the survival, the refusal to give up no matter how hard things get. That is our heritage. Not genetics or ruins, but the knowledge that we can face anything and find a way through. That is a very human way of thinking." "Maybe. But I think you understand it now too. You faced a death world and survived. Not because you are human, but because you learned to think like the situation required. You adapted. That is the real lesson Earth teaches. Adapt or die. And humans really hate dying." Rixal's surface patterns showed something that might have been amusement. "I am beginning to appreciate human humor as well. You make jokes about death while walking toward danger?" "It helps," Minho said with a smile. "Fear is natural. But if you can laugh at what scares you, it has less power over you." They boarded the Soul Star together. The ship's engines powered up with a smooth hum. On the main view screen, the Academy station fell away as they accelerated toward the jump point. Jiwan pulled up a navigation display showing their route to the void reaches. Red warning markers covered the entire region. Well, this looks cheerful. At least there probably will not be monsoons, Yuna said optimistically. Just uncharted spatial anomalies, possible hostile species, and whatever made 3 entire expeditions disappear. Thum added. Much better, they all laughed. It was the kind of laughter that came from people who had faced death together and come out the other side. The kind that said they trusted each other completely. On the view screen, Earth appeared briefly as they adjusted their trajectory. The blue and white world turned slowly, storms visible over the oceans, volcanic activity glowing along tectonic plates. A passing ship's captain, seeing the planet on their shared tactical display, sent a message. You are showing a Class 11 death world on your screen. You might want to adjust your sensors. That is not a safe place, Yuna sent a reply. Sensors are working fine. That is Earth, that is home. There was a long pause. Then the other captain responded. You are from there? How does anything survive on that world? Minho took over the communication channel. We do not just survive, we thrive. Earth taught us that the universe is not supposed to be easy, but if you are clever, stubborn, and willing to help each other, you can handle anything it throws at you. I do not understand. You do not have to, Minho said kindly. Just know that if you ever need help in a dangerous situation, call for humans. We specialize in impossible odds. The Soul Star jumped to hyperspace, carrying Team 7 toward the void reaches, toward danger and discovery, toward whatever challenges the galaxy had waiting. But they went together. This team of humans and aliens who had learned that the real strength was not in avoiding danger, but in facing it as a family. Minho recorded a final log entry as they traveled. They warned us no cadet should step on a death world. They were right for them, but we are human. We were born on a world that tried to kill us every single day, and we loved it anyway. We learned that survival is not about being the strongest or the smartest. It is about being stubborn enough to stand up one more time than you are knocked down. It is about helping your squad when you can barely help yourself. It is about looking at the impossible and saying we have seen worse. He paused, looking around at his team. At Jiwan, reviewing medical supplies. At Yuna, running system diagnostics. At Rixal and Thum and the others, no longer terrified cadets but confident rangers. Earth made us survivors, he continued. But we chose to be more than that. We chose to be explorers, protectors, and friends to those who never had to face what we faced. The galaxy calls our homeworld a death world. We just call it home, and that makes all the difference. The Soul Star streaked through hyperspace, a small ship carrying big dreams and bigger hearts. Behind them, Earth continued its eternal rotation, storms and earthquakes and all the violence of a living world. The planet that had forged humanity in fire and flood, in ice and storm, the death world that humans called home. And ahead, in the darkness of unexplored space, new challenges waited. New dangers. New opportunities to prove that the stubborn species from the deadly blue world could not just survive but excel, because that was what humans did. They faced the impossible, they protected their own, and they never ever gave up. The galaxy was about to learn what that really meant.